As you may have guessed, that joyride ending was mandated by studio boss Darryl Zanuck. And that's not the only thing screenwriter Buzz Bizzarides had grafted onto the end of its original story. The climactic scene in the roadhouse where Nick gives Figlia his comeuppance was not in the novel. In his book, Bizzarides took a more literary, ambiguous approach, leaving readers dangling as Nick takes off after Figlia, crazy for revenge. He refused to show the vicarious thrill of retribution because he felt no real victory had been earned. Nick ended up as cynical, angry, and hard-hearted as the crooks he despises. Still, director Jules Dassin managed to wring every satisfying drop of suspense out of that scene, despite that ineptly inserted shot of the cop preaching the law to Richard Conte. As a studio, 20th Century Fox was especially guilty of these stilted square-ups. On the other hand, Bizzarides and Dassin did manage to sneak a few things past the production code. A viewer would have to be pretty naive, even in 1949, not to realize that Rika is a prostitute, an occupation the PCA did not allow on screen. The scenes between Conte and Valentina Corteza in Rika's crib are enticingly erotic, as the filmmakers use clever ways to subvert the code. While there were rules against women exposing too much flesh, the opposite did not apply. Corteza playing tic-tac-toe on Conte's bare chest? Hey, no rule against that in the code, and it makes for one of the sexiest moments in any film of the era. Bizzarides and Dassin didn't agree on everything, however. Buzz argued against the casting of Valentina Corteza, claiming the character was written to be an average American woman, driven by hard luck into prostitution. Buzz thought it was a perfect part for Shelley Winters. He claimed Dassin reimagined the character, romanticizing her as an Italian refugee because he was having an affair with Corteza. Sorry, Buzz, I'm with Dassin on this one. Corteza was unique in American movies. Darryl Zanuck signed her from among several earthy Italian actresses who came to Hollywood around this time. Anna Magnani, Silvana Magnano, and Gina Lollobrigida. But Corteza was distinctive, with an angular grace rather than a voluptuous figure, and more sly humor in her performances. Amazingly, she didn't speak any English. She learned all her dialogue phonetically. Corteza made only a few more pictures in America, including The House on Telegraph Hill, also shot on location in San Francisco, before moving back to Italy. She returned with an American husband, actor Richard Basehart, who kept acting during his years abroad, famously co-starring in Federico Fellini's masterpiece, La Strada. Valentina Corteza would years later be nominated for a supporting actress Oscar as the aging diva who can't remember her lines in Francois Truffaut's Day for Night. The character of Mike Figlia is one of the most gregarious, slimy, and believable villains in all film noir, and Lee J. Cobb bit into the role like a juicy golden delicious. This was by far his most vivid movie appearance to date, and it served as a warm-up for arguably his most famous role, as Johnny Friendly in 1954's On the Waterfront. At the time of Thieves Highway, Cobb and Jules Dassin were best buddies, a friendship that would end bitterly when the actor named Dassin as a communist sympathizer in a closed-door session with the HUAC committee. The two never spoke again. As for our leading man, should it come as any surprise that Richard Conte's actual first name was Nick? By my count, Conte played a guy named Nick at least 6 times in a career that spanned almost 100 credits between television and film. And if he looked comfortable handling that ramshackle rig, that's because he was a truck driver before being discovered by Elia Kazan and John Garfield while working as a singing waiter in a Catskills resort. Now, if it seems I'm giving short shrift to Conte, who gave one of his best performances in Thieves Highway, it's only because he'll be back on Noir Alley many more times. After all, he made 18 films that could be considered noir. Next week, I'll be showing one of those films ripped from the files of the FBI. Down Three Dark Streets is something of a precursor to modern cop shows in that it follows 3 separate cases, sort of a crime anthology. Here, all of them are worked by the same dogged agent, Broderick Crawford. Running only 85 minutes, Broad doesn't have much time to stop at local saloons while chasing down leads. Ruth Roman, Martha Heyer, and Marisa Pavan are on hand to lend him support, if you know what I mean. Remember to check in with us on the Noir Alley Facebook page and Twitter feed. And until next week, see you in the shadows.